The skies over Earth were never truly clear anymore. Even on sunny days, the Vrykyan monitoring stations hung visible in the atmosphere, dark shapes that reminded everyone who was in charge. It had been this way for nearly 30 years. Most adults could still remember the day the ships came, massive and silent, appearing over every major city at once. The Vrykyans didn't need to destroy much to prove their point. Just enough. John Mercer looked up at one such station as he walked to his car in the high school parking lot. The afternoon sun caught its metallic surface, making it shine. The students called it the eye in the sky, always watching, always ready to report any sign of resistance. John was 45 years old, with graying hair at his temples and lines forming around his eyes. To his students and neighbors in Pine Ridge, Minnesota, he was just a physics teacher who loved his family and kept to himself. None of them knew that before the invasion, he had been Dr. Jonathan Mercer, the lead scientist analyzing deep space transmissions at NASA's Communication Center. He had been the first human to decode the Vrykyan language, though he didn't know what it was at the time. By the time he understood the messages contained invasion plans, it was too late to warn anyone. John started his old sedan and began the 15-minute drive home. The radio played only approved music and news, stories about the benefits of Vrykyan oversight, and the latest tribute quotas. Each town had to provide resources on a regular schedule. Pine Ridge specialized in agricultural products and lumber. Today marks another successful collection from the Chicago region, the radio announcer said cheerfully. Regional Supervisor Peters reminds all citizens that compliance ensures safety. John turned off the radio. The early days after the invasion had been chaotic. Millions died in the failed military responses. Billions more would have died if the resistance had continued. The Vrykyans made that clear by destroying one major city on each continent. After that, humans learned to obey. Some still fought back in small ways. John knew about the underground networks, people sharing information, planning for a day when they might have a chance against their oppressors. He stayed away from such groups. He had a family to protect. His house appeared around the bend, a 2-story farmhouse with white siding and a wide front porch. It sat on 5 acres of land, far enough from neighbors to give them privacy. His wife Diane's garden stretched along one side, already showing spring growth. As he pulled into the driveway, he spotted Lily on the porch practicing her violin. At 12 years old, she had her mother's gentle features and his intense focus. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail as she moved the bow across the strings with careful precision. "Dad," she called out, putting down the instrument and running to meet him. "Hey, kiddo," he said, hugging her tight. "How was school, Ms.? Peter said my math project was the best in class. She wants me to enter it in the regional science fair." John felt the familiar mix of pride and fear. Standing out was dangerous in this world. Excellence drew attention. "That's great," he said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "Let's talk about it over dinner." Inside, Diane was preparing a meal in the kitchen. At 42, she still moved with the athletic grace that first attracted him to her 15 years ago, before Lily was born. Few people in town knew that Diane had once been Lieutenant Diane Hayes, military intelligence officer. Like John, she had buried her past when the Vrykyans came. "John," she said, kissing him quickly, "we got the notice today." She handed him a paper with the official Vrykyan symbol at the top, a spiraling geometric pattern that looked slightly different each time you viewed it. The letter informed them that Pine Ridge's tribute requirements had increased by 15% for the next collection. "They're taking more than we can produce," John muttered. The mayor called an emergency meeting tonight, Diane said quietly. 7 o'clock at the town hall. John nodded, reading between the lines. The official meeting would be about reorganizing work schedules to meet the new quotas. The real meeting would happen afterward, among trusted townspeople, to discuss how they would actually survive with less food and resources for themselves. Later that evening, after dinner, John sat with Lily in the living room. She had her math homework spread across the coffee table, but she wasn't working on it. "Dad, Jason's father was taken yesterday," she said suddenly. John looked up from his book. What happened? Nobody knows. The collection ship came to their farm. They said they needed to ask him some questions. He hasn't come back. John felt a chill run through him. Random selection was the official term. The Vrakians occasionally took people for what they called research purposes. Some returned months later, changed and unwilling to speak about what happened. Many never returned at all. "I'm sorry to hear that," John said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm sure he'll be back soon." "You always say that," Lily said, looking directly at him. "But it's not true, is it?" Sometimes John forgot how perceptive his daughter was. Her intelligence went beyond academic subjects. She could read people in a way that sometimes seemed almost supernatural. "No," he admitted finally. "It's not always true." Lily nodded, accepting his honesty. "I had the dream again last night." John tensed. For the past year, Lily had occasionally mentioned strange dreams. Dreams where she understood the Vrakians, could hear their thoughts somehow. Dreams where numbers and equations floated in the air. "What happened in this one?" he asked carefully. We're talking about a special human," she said. "Someone who could hear them. They're looking for this person." John's mouth went dry. Years ago, before the invasion, he had discovered something unusual about certain human brains. A rare neural pattern that theoretically could receive and process the unique telepathic frequencies the Vrakians used to communicate. He had written a paper about it, though he didn't understand its significance at the time. Later, after the invasion, he had tested Lily when she was just a baby. She had the pattern. "It's just a dream," he said, reaching out to smooth her hair. "Don't worry about it." Diane appeared in the doorway, car keys in hand. "I need to head to the meeting. Will you be okay here?" John nodded. "We'll be fine, be careful." After Diane left, John watched Lily return to her homework. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across their property. In the distance, the Vrakian monitoring station caught the last rays of light. John found himself thinking about his old research, about the weaknesses he had discovered in Vrakian communication systems. Thoughts he had buried for years out of fear. For the 1,000th time, he wondered if there was any way to fight back. And for the 1,000th time, he looked at his daughter and decided that keeping her safe was more important than being a hero. What he didn't know was that the decision would soon be taken out of his hands. 3 weeks after the town meeting, life in Pine Ridge continued under the heavier burden of increased tributes. Farmers worked longer hours. The lumber mill operated 7 days a week now. Everyone looked more tired, moved a little slower, but they adapted. Humans had become good at adapting under Vrakian rule. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as John made breakfast. Lily sat at the table reviewing her notes for a science test. Diane poured coffee into a travel mug, already dressed in her nurse's scrubs for her shift at the local clinic. "Remember, I'm working late tonight," Diane said, kissing John quickly. "There's a mandatory health screening for mill workers." "I'll pick Lily up from her violin lesson," John replied. "We can make dinner." "Pizza?" Lily suggested hopefully. Not looking up from her notes, John smiled. "We'll see." After Diane left for work, John drove Lily to school. The morning was crisp and clear, with only a thin haze from the Vrakian atmospheric processors that had been installed 5 years ago. The aliens claimed these machines improved Earth's air quality, but most humans suspected they were adjusting the atmosphere to be more comfortable for Vrakian biology. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Lily said as they approached the school. "Sure, kiddo. If someone could talk to the Vrakians, I mean really talk to them, not just follow orders, do you think they might leave us alone?" John gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Why do you ask?" "Just thinking," she said, looking out the window. "In history class, we learned that most wars end with talking, not just fighting." "That's true," John said carefully. "But the Vrakians don't seem interested in talking. They see us as resources, not equals." "Maybe they just don't understand us," Lily suggested. "Like we don't understand them." John pulled up to the school drop-off area. "Have your dreams been different lately?" he asked. Lily hesitated, then nodded. slowly. I can almost understand them now. The Vrakians. It's like math and feelings mixed together. A chill ran down John's spine. Before he could respond, the school bell rang. I gotta go, Lily said, grabbing her backpack. See you after. Violin? John watched her join the stream of students entering the building. On his way to the high school, he took a detour, driving past the old radio tower at the edge of town. It had been abandoned after the invasion, deemed obsolete by Vrakian communication standards. What no one knew was that John had been slowly collecting parts from it for years, building something in the storm cellar beneath their house. The school day passed slowly. John taught his physics classes mechanically, his mind elsewhere. During his free period, he called an old colleague from his NASA days, using a secure line they had established years ago. Alan, it's me, he said when the call connected. I need that frequency analyzer we talked about. That's not easy to get these days, Alan replied cautiously. The Vrakians monitor all electromagnetic equipment transfers. It's important, John insisted. Lily's dreams are getting more specific. I think she's developing the ability. A long pause followed. I'll see what I can do. Give me 3 days. After school, John drove to the community center where Lily took violin lessons. He arrived early and sat in the car, reviewing old research, notes on his tablet, files hidden behind layers of encryption. The notes detailed his theories about human Vrakian communication possibilities, written in the months before the invasion. One passage stood out. Neural pattern type R7 shows resonance with non-human communication frequencies. Theoretical implications include potential for direct reception of alien thought patterns, if such beings utilize telepathic communication methods. Lily had the R7 pattern. He had discovered it when she was just a toddler, using equipment he had smuggled from his lab before the NASA facility was repurposed by the Vrakians. He had kept this knowledge secret, even from Diane, fearing what might happen if anyone found out. A tap on the car window startled him. Mrs. Keller, Lily's violin teacher, stood there, her face pale. John rolled down the window. Is everything okay? Lily never showed up for her lesson, Mrs. Keller said, her voice shaking. I called the school. They said she left with the other students at the normal time. John's heart dropped. He thanked Mrs. Keller and immediately called Diane, who hadn't heard from Lily either. Next, he called Lily's friend Emma's parents, then several other classmates. No one had seen her after school. As panic rose in his chest, John drove through town, checking places Lily liked to visit. The library, the small park near the river, the ice cream shop. Nothing. He returned home, hoping desperately that she had somehow gone there, but the house was empty. John was about to call the local security office, a risky move since they reported directly to Vrakian authorities, when a strange sound came from outside. A low humming that made the windows vibrate slightly. He ran to the front door. In the darkening sky above their property hovered a Vrakian collection ship, smaller than the massive craft that had first invaded Earth, but still imposing with its dark metal hull and pulsing blue lights. It was descending slowly toward there. John's first instinct was to run, to hide, but something told him this was connected to Lily's disappearance. He stepped onto the porch as the ship settled on the grass about 50 feet from the house. A seam appeared in its smooth surface, widening into a doorway. A ramp extended to the ground. 2 figures emerged. The first was unmistakably Vrakian, tall and slender with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the fading light. Its large, oval-shaped head housed 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, all shifting between colors as it moved. It wore what appeared to be a form-fitting uniform covered with symbols that changed position subtly, like a screen displaying moving data. Behind the Vrakian came a human man in a gray suit. He looked ordinary except for his eyes, which had the beepy, flat, emotionless quality common to human collaborators who worked directly with the aliens. Dr. Jonathan Mercer, the man said, using John's full former title. Subject 7294 requires your presence. My name is John Mercer, he corrected automatically. I'm a high school teacher. Who is subject 7294? The human smiled without warmth. The juvenile female designated Lily Mercer. She has been selected for the special research program. Where is my daughter? John demanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. The Vrakian made a series of clicking sounds which the human translated. Your offspring possesses neural patterns of significant research value. She is now aboard the primary research vessel, in orbit. You are being offered the opportunity to join the research team, given your background in xenocommunication studies. They took my daughter? John's voice rose as the full meaning hit him. She was not harmed, the human said. But her cooperation would be improved by your presence. This is a rare honor, Dr. Mercer. Few humans are invited to Vrakian facilities. John stared at them, his mind racing. They had Lily. They knew about her neural patterns, they knew about his past. I need to contact my wife, he said. Communications will be permitted once aboard, the human replied. Do you accept the invitation? It wasn't really a question. They had Lily. If he refused, he might never see her again. I'll get my coat, John said, his voice hollow. As he stepped back into the house, his hand brushed against the emergency beacon in his pocket. A small device Alan had given him years ago, connected to the resistance network. He pressed it once, sending a silent alert that would reach Diane and others. Then he grabbed his coat, a photo of the three of them from the mantel, and walked back outside toward the waiting ship. The Vrakian ship rose smoothly into the night sky, leaving the small town of Pine Ridge behind. John sat stiffly on a curved bench that seemed to adjust to his body. The human collaborator sat across from him, while the Vrakian pilot operated, controls that looked like glowing symbols floating in the air. How long have you known about Lily? John asked, breaking the uncomfortable silence. The collaborator smiled thinly. The Vrakians scan all human children at birth for useful genetic traits. Your daughter's neural patterns were flagged, but initially classified as low priority. Recent changes in her development elevated her status. What changes? She began, receiving Vrakian thought patterns. Unconsciously at first, then with increasing clarity. The man tilted his head. Surely you noticed, Dr. Mercer. With your background, you must have recognized the signs. John said nothing. Of course he had noticed. He had been monitoring Lily's condition for years, watching for any indication that the Vrakians had detected her abilities. Where exactly are we going? He asked instead. The primary research vessel orbiting Earth. It's where all special subjects are studied. The journey took less than an hour. John watched through a small viewport as they approached a massive ship that looked like a series of interconnected rings, spinning slowly against the blackness of space. Earth hung below them, a blue and white sphere partially in shadow. After docking, John was led through gleaming corridors. The air smelled slightly metallic, and the gravity felt lighter than Earth's. Other human collaborators moved purposefully about, none making eye contact with him. Occasionally, a Vrakian would pass by, their movements fluid and unsettling. They stopped at a door that opened automatically. Inside was a small room with a bed, a desk, and what appeared to be a bathroom area behind a partition. You will rest here, the collaborator said. Tomorrow you will be taken to see the child and briefed on your role in the research. I want to see Lily now, John demanded. The subject is undergoing initial evaluation. Interference would compromise valuable data. The man stepped back. Food will be delivered shortly. I suggest you eat and rest. After the door closed, John immediately examined the room. No obvious cameras, though he assumed he was being monitored somehow. No windows or additional exits. The desk contained blank sheets of paper and writing implements, but nothing electronic. John sat on the bed, his mind racing. Diane would have received his emergency signal by now. She would contact their network. But what could anyone on Earth do against a Vrakian research vessel? He had to find Lily himself. A panel in the wall slid open, revealing a tray of food, a bland-looking protein cube, some vegetable matter, and a container of water. John wasn't hungry, but he forced himself to eat, knowing he needed strength. Sleep was impossible. John spent hours thinking about everything he knew about Vrakian physiology and psychology from his research days, their telepathic abilities, their mathematical approach to all problems, their lack of emotional response to human suffering. Morning came, marked only by a change in the lighting and the arrival of another food tray. Shortly after, the door opened, and a different human collaborator entered, an older woman with close-cropped, gray hair and cold eyes. "Follow me, Dr. Mercer. Senior researcher Korvax wishes to speak with you before you see the subject." "Her name is Lily," John said firmly. "Not the subject." The woman ignored him and led the way through more corridors, eventually arriving at a large circular room filled with holographic displays showing data in Vrakian script. A tall Vrakian stood in the center, its four eyes shifting between green and purple as it examined the displays. "Senior researcher Korvax," the woman announced. "This is Dr. Jonathan Mercer." The Vrakian turned. Unlike the one from the collection, ship, this one wore elaborate markings on its uniform suggesting higher rank. When it spoke, its voice was a strange combination of clicks and hums, immediately translated by a device on its wrist. "Dr. Mercer, your presence will facilitate our work with Subject 7294. The juvenile displays resistance to standard neural mapping procedures." "She's scared," John said. "She's a child who was taken from her home without warning. Of course she's resistant." Korvax's eyes shifted to blue. "Fear is an inefficient response. We have explained the importance of her neural structure to our research. Where is she? I want to see her now." "First, you must understand your role," Korvax replied. "You will assist in calibrating our communication protocols to access the subject's receptive abilities. Your knowledge of both human neurology and Vrakian communication frequencies makes you uniquely qualified." John realized what they wanted. They knew Lily could receive Vrakian telepathic signals, but they couldn't fully access her mind. They needed him to help them break through her natural defenses, and if I refuse, he asked, then the subject's usefulness becomes limited to physical research only, Korvax said flatly. The threat was clear. Help them communicate with Lily's mind, or they would study her body instead. "Take me to her," John said, his voice tight with controlled anger. They led him to another section of the ship where the corridors were lined with transparent cells. Each contained a human, some sitting motionless, others pacing, a few sleeping. John felt sick as he realized these were all research subjects taken from Earth. They stopped at a cell near the end. Inside, Lily sat cross-legged on a simple bed, her eyes closed as if meditating. She wore a white medical gown and small sensors were attached to her temples. "Lily!" John called out, rushing to the transparent wall. Her eyes snapped open. "Dad!" She jumped up and pressed her hands against the barrier from her side. "Dad, I knew you'd come." "Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" John asked quickly, looking for any sign of injury. "I'm okay," she said. "They just scanned me and asked questions, but Dad, I can hear them in my head. All the time now." Korvax made a series of clicking sounds. The subject's receptive abilities have developed rapidly since arrival. However, she has also displayed unexpected defensive capabilities. "What does that mean?" John asked. "She can block our attempts to access her deeper thought patterns," the female collaborator explained. "And on 2 occasions, she has reflected probe signals back to the researchers, causing neural disruption." John looked at Lily with new understanding. She wasn't just receiving their telepathic communications, she was fighting back. "Can you open her cell?" "I need to talk to her privately," John said. "Negative," Korvax replied. "But we will deactivate audio monitoring to allow verbal communication. Your physical proximity should calm the subject and make her more receptive to cooperation." The female collaborator pressed a sequence on a control panel. "You have 10 minutes, Dr. Mercer. Then we begin the first calibration session." When they stepped away, John leaned close to the transparent wall. "Lily, listen carefully. I'm going to help you get out of here." "How?" she whispered. "We're in space. I activated the emergency beacon before I left. Mom will contact our friends, but we need to buy time." He glanced back to make sure the Vrakians were still at a distance. "Lily, Those dreams you've been having, they're real. You can hear the Vrakian's thoughts because you have a special brain pattern. I've known about it since you were little. Lily nodded, unsurprised. I figured that out. And I can do more than just hear them, Dad. I can push back. When they try to get into my mind, I can push them out. That's amazing, sweetheart, but be careful. Don't show them everything you can do. I haven't, she said, a determined look crossing her face. There's something else they don't know. What's that? Lily leaned closer to the barrier, her voice dropping to a barely audible whisper. When I push back hard enough, I can see all of their thoughts too. And Dad, there aren't many of them. The Vrakians, I mean. They're not a huge empire. They're just really good at making everyone afraid. John's eyes widened as he processed this information. If true, it changed everything about what they knew of their oppressors. Before he could respond, Korvax approached again. Preparation time has ended. We will now begin the calibration process. 3 days passed on the Vrakian research vessel. John spent every waking hour in the laboratory with Lily, pretending to help the aliens calibrate their equipment while secretly teaching her how to strengthen her mental defenses. Korvax and the other researchers believed they were making progress, but John was carefully sabotaging their efforts, making small adjustments to their equipment that appeared helpful, but actually protected Lily's mind. On the morning of the 4th day, John was led to a different room than usual. This one was larger, with a curved wall of screens showing Earth from multiple angles. Korvax stood with several other Vrakians, all watching the displays with their color-shifting eyes. Why am I here? John asked the human collaborator who had escorted him. Where is Lily? Subject 7294 remains in her cell, the woman replied flatly. Senior researcher Korvax wishes to show you something. Korvax turned as John approached. Dr. Mercer, observe. The alien gestured to one of the screens, which showed a small town that John recognized as Pine Ridge. Another screen displayed a different town, and another showed a city, each displaying live footage from somewhere on Earth. What am I looking at? John asked, though he had a sickening feeling he already knew. A demonstration, Korvax replied. Your mate has activated a resistance network. They believe they can mount a rescue operation. The Vrakian's eyes shifted to a cold blue color. They are incorrect. One of the screens zoomed in on Pine Ridge's town center. John could see people gathered there, a crowd larger than normal. With horror, he recognized Diane at the front speaking to the group. You've been watching her, John said. All potential resistance elements are monitored, Korvax stated. Your mate's activities became noticeable shortly after your arrival. Here. The alien pressed a symbol on a floating control panel. On the screen, a small Vrakian drone appeared above the crowd in Pine Ridge. People looked up, pointing at it. Stop, John said. Whatever you're planning, stop. Compliance requires consequences for disobedience, Korvax replied. The demonstration will proceed. They haven't done anything yet, John protested. You can't punish people for talking. Previous analysis indicates that preventing resistance formation is more efficient than suppressing established resistance. Korvax moved to press another symbol. Wait, John shouted. You need Lily's cooperation for your research. If you harm her mother or her town, she'll never cooperate. Korvax paused, eyes shifting to green as it considered this logic. Your point has validity. However, the resistance must be addressed. Let me talk to my wife, John suggested. I can convince her to stop whatever she's planning. No demonstration needed. The Vrakians seem to consider this. Direct communication would reveal that we are aware of their activities. Not if you let me record a general message, John said. Something that would normally be allowed between family members. I can include coded warnings that only Diane will understand. After a moment of consideration, Korvax agreed. John was taken to a small communication room where a human technician set up recording equipment. Under the watchful eyes of 2 Vrakians, John recorded a brief message for Diane. Diane, I wanted you to know that Lily and I are safe. We're participating in an important research program. Lily's musical talents have impressed our hosts greatly. Remember how she played Bach's Violin Partita No. 2? The researchers particularly enjoyed the fifth movement. We hope to see you soon. Stay well. The message contained no direct warning, but John knew Diane would understand. Bach's Partita No. 2, fifth movement, the chaconne, was their emergency code phrase. It meant extreme danger, abort all plans. The reference to Lily's musical talents would tell Diane that their daughter's mind was the focus of the research. After the message was sent, John was escorted back to the laboratory where Lily waited. She sat in a special chair surrounded by Vrakian technology, sensors attached to her temples. She looked tired but smiled when she saw him. "Dad, they said you were in a meeting." "I was," he said, moving to her side as quickly as possible. He bent down, pretending to check the sensors while whispering, "They know about Mom and the Resistance. I've sent her a warning." Lily nodded slightly, careful not to show reaction to the Vrakians monitoring them. "I learned something new last night," she whispered back when the researchers were momentarily distracted. "What?" "Their control center for all Earth operations is on one of Jupiter's moons, Europa. That's where they manage the weapon platforms orbiting Earth." John's heart raced. This was critical information. If the Resistance knew the location of the control center, they might have a chance of disabling the Vrakian weapons that kept humanity in check. "How did you learn that?" he asked quietly. "I told you I can see their thoughts when I push back," Lily said. "I've been practicing at night. Their night shift researchers aren't as careful." Their conversation was interrupted as Korvax entered the laboratory. "Today we will attempt a deeper neural connection," the alien announced. "Previous calibrations have prepared Subject 7294's mind for extended contact." John moved to the control panel he had been assigned to operate. Over the past days, he had learned enough about the Vrakian technology to understand its basic functions. The machine was designed to amplify telepathic signals and direct them with precision. Today, they plan to use it to fully access Lily's mind. "Begin primary sequence," Korvax ordered. John pretended to comply, activating certain systems while subtly disabling others. On his control panel, readings showed successful connection, but he had modified the equipment to show false data. Lily closed her eyes as the machine hummed to life. To the Vrakians, it appeared she was now linked to their telepathic network, her mind open to their examination. In reality, John had created a feedback loop that protected her while feeding the alien simulated data. "Remarkable," Korvax said, observing the readings. "The subject's mind is fully accessible. Begin data extraction." The other researchers activated their equipment. John watched nervously as they attempted to probe Lily's thoughts. For several minutes, everything seemed to be working as he had planned. The Vrakians believed they were receiving data from Lily's mind, while she remained protected. Then, something unexpected happened. Lily's eyes snapped open, glowing with a strange blue light. The equipment around her began to spark and shudder. Alarms sounded throughout the laboratory. "What is happening?" Korvax demanded. One of the researchers made urgent clicking sounds. "The subject is generating a reverse signal. She's not just receiving, she's transmitting." "Impossible," Korvax said. "Human minds cannot generate telepathic outputs." But the evidence was undeniable. Lily sat rigid in her chair, eyes glowing, as the Vrakian researchers clutched their heads in obvious distress. Their eyes flickered rapidly between colors, a sign of mental confusion. "Lily," John called out. "What are you doing?" Her voice sounded strange, layered with harmonics that shouldn't have been possible for a human throat. "I'm in their network, Dad. I can see everything, all their plans, all their secrets." She turned to look at him, the blue glow in her eyes fading slightly. "And I just sent every bit of it back to Earth." Korvax staggered forward. "Terminate the connection, security protocol Omega." But it was too late. Lily had done something no Vrakian had thought possible. She had turned their own telepathic network against them, using it to broadcast their secrets to every human on Earth with the rare R7 neural pattern. People who, like her, could receive Vrakian thoughts. And just like that, the carefully constructed illusion of Vrakian power began to crumble. Chaos erupted in the Vrakian laboratory. Alarms blared as researchers scrambled to contain the situation. Lily slumped in her chair, exhausted from her mental effort but conscious. John rushed to her side, pulling off the sensors attached to her temples. "Lily, are you okay?" he asked, helping her to her feet. She nodded weakly. "They can't stop it, Dad. The truth is out now." Korvax was shouting orders, its eyes flashing between red and yellow, colors John had never seen in Vrakian eyes before. The universal translator on Korvax's wrist interpreted the alien's clicks and hums. "Lock down all communications. Activate emergency protocols. The control center must be notified immediately." Taking advantage of the confusion, John led Lily toward the laboratory door. No one tried to stop them. The Vrakians were too focused on their system's failure. In the corridor outside, human collaborators ran in all directions, some looking confused, others frightened. "What exactly did you do?" John asked as they hurried away from the lab. "I reversed their telepathic network," Lily explained, her strength returning. "Every secret they were trying to get from my mind, I pulled from theirs instead. Then I sent it all out to people like me, people with the R7 pattern." "How many people have that pattern?" "Hundreds, maybe thousands," she said. "And now they all know what I know. The Vrakians are much weaker than they pretend to be. There are only about 4,000 of them controlling all of Earth. Their weapons aren't as powerful as they made us believe, and most importantly, they can be beaten." They reached a junction in the corridor. Emergency lights flashed along the walls, bathing everything in a pulsing red glow. "We need to find a way off this ship," John said, looking in both directions. "This way," Lily said confidently, pointing left. "The shuttle bay is on this level, 3 sections over. I saw it in their minds." As they moved through the vessel, they encountered more panicked crew members, but most ignored them, too busy with their own concerns. After several minutes of careful navigation, they reached a large door marked with Vrakian symbols. "This is it," Lily said, "but it needs security clearance to open." John examined the control panel next to the door. It required a Vrakian handprint and a telepathic signal, impossible for humans to provide. "We need to find another way," he started to say, but Lily stepped forward, placing her hand on the panel. "Wait, let me try something," she said. She closed her eyes, concentrating. The panel began to glow, first red, then yellow, then green. The door slid open. "How did you do that?" John asked, amazed. "I copied the telepathic signature from one of the researchers' minds," she explained. "It won't work for long, though. We have to hurry." They entered the shuttle bay, a vast chamber containing several small Vrakian transport vessels. Crew members rushed about, preparing ships for departure. In the confusion, John and Lily slipped behind storage containers, moving toward the nearest available shuttle. "Do you know how to fly one of these?" John whispered. "Not really," Lily admitted. "But I saw how the controls work in their minds. I think I can figure it out." A loud announcement echoed through the shuttle bay, a series of Vrakian sounds that the nearby translators converted to human language. "All personnel prepare for emergency departure. Control center under attack. Repeat, Europa Control Center, under attack." John and Lily exchanged surprised looks. "Mom and the Resistance," John said. "They must have used the information you sent to launch an attack on the Jupiter moon base." "We need to help them," Lily said. They waited until the nearest shuttle was prepped but momentarily unattended, then dashed aboard. The interior was designed for Vrakian physiology, with strange seating and control interfaces that responded to telepathic inputs. Lily sat at what appeared to be the pilot's position, placing her hands on 2 glowing panels. She closed her eyes, concentrating hard. After a tense moment, the shuttle systems hummed to life. "I can do this," she said, her voice strained. "It's like playing a really complicated piece of music with your mind." The shuttle lifted off the bay floor. Through the viewport, they could see Vrakians pointing at their vessel, realizing something was wrong. A security team rushed toward them, but too late. Lily had already figured out how to activate the shuttle's exit sequence. The bay doors opened, and their small craft shot out into space. Behind them, The massive Vrakian research vessel loomed, now surrounded by several other ships responding to the emergency. "Where are we going?" John asked as Lily guided the shuttle away from the larger vessels. "Europa," she said firmly. "That's where Mom will be headed. That's where we can end this." The journey to Jupiter's moon would take hours even with the Vrakian shuttle's advanced drive system. As they traveled, John found a communication panel and, with Lily's help, managed to tune it to human frequencies. They caught fragments of transmissions from Earth, excited voices describing unprecedented events unfolding across the planet. The revelation that the Vrakian occupation force was actually very small had sparked simultaneous uprisings in major cities worldwide. More importantly, the locations of the Vrakians' automated defense systems had been exposed, allowing resistance forces to disable many of them. "It's working," John said, listening to the reports. "People are fighting back everywhere." "The Vrakians relied on fear," Lily said. "Once people stopped being afraid, their whole system started falling apart." As they approached Jupiter, they received a clearer transmission. A voice John immediately recognized as Diane's. "Have secured the lower levels of the Europa facility. We need additional support at the main control center. The Vrakians are attempting to activate the orbital defense network. If they succeed, cities across Earth will be targeted. We have approximately 3 hours to prevent this. All available units respond." John adjusted the communication settings. "Diane? Diane, can you hear me?" After a moment of static, her voice came through, shocked and hopeful. "John? Is that you? How are you?" "I'm with Lily," he cut in. "We escaped the research vessel. We're on our way to Europa now in a Vrakian shuttle." "Thank God," Diane said, relief evident in her voice. "We've been worried." "There's no time," John interrupted. "Lily knows how their systems work. She can help shut down the defense network, but we need to know where to land." Diane gave them coordinates for a secure landing zone. As they approached Europa, they could see evidence of the battle: damaged Vrakian facilities, human transport ships, and flashes of weapons fire on the icy surface. Lily guided their shuttle down, landing precisely at the designated spot where a group of resistance fighters waited. As soon as they disembarked, they were rushed into the captured portion of the Vrakian facility. Diane met them in a corridor, tears in her eyes as she embraced them both. "You're really here," she said. "When I got your message with the Shakon code, I thought, we can catch up later," John said gently. "Right now, we need to stop those defense platforms from firing." Diane nodded, instantly back in soldier mode. This way, she led them to what had once been the Vrakian command center. Human resistance fighters worked alongside a few individuals who appeared to be collaborators but had switched sides when the truth was revealed. They were trying to access the main control systems without success. "We can't break through their security," Diane explained. "And we believe the countdown has already started." Lily stepped forward, examining the Vrakian interfaces. "I can do it," she said confidently. "This is what they wanted from me all along, the ability to interface with their systems." She placed her hands on the control surfaces, closing her eyes in concentration. The screens around them flickered, displaying Vrakian symbols that changed rapidly as Lily worked. "She's doing it," one of the technicians said in awe. "She's actually communicating directly with the Vrakian network." Minutes passed as Lily navigated the alien systems with her mind. Finally, she opened her eyes and smiled. "Done. The defense platforms are shutting down. All of them. Everywhere." As confirmation appeared on the monitoring screens, cheers erupted throughout the command center. Diane put her arms around both John and Lily, holding them close. "Is it really over?" she asked quietly. John looked at the screens showing Vrakian ships fleeing Earth's orbit, resistance forces securing alien facilities worldwide, and humans celebrating in streets from New York to Tokyo. "Yes," he said. "They ruled by fear for 30 years, but they made one crucial mistake." "What was that?" asked a nearby fighter. John smiled at Lily, who was tired but proud. "They took the wrong child."